I'm going to be running through a couple of random shuffles of Tiny Islands here, a game by David King. I really like this game, been playing it quite a lot, doing the daily shuffles almost every day for quite a while. And I want to just kind of show how I push the game and think about my placements and run through a couple. So let's get started. Um, if you don't know the rules, I'll put a link in the description. Definitely go check it out. Um, I'm just going to kind of talk about the more advanced strategy rather than the introduction to the game here. So let's start. We got our first choice here. Definitely the beach is what you're going to want to prioritize here. And normally I might be tempted to put it in the corner here, but actually I tend to favor, in this case, being a little more neutral on the side for the first turn, especially. Um, it's a little bit unfortunate because we're going to place this at the bottom. It's not quite as centered as maybe we want, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the middle here. This will flow nicely into a first island on either side, so I can wait for a more important choice to pick kind of orientation for my initial islands. I'm going to be following it up. We have the mountain choice here. I definitely want to go with mountain over forest since I don't have any forest yet. And I don't want to put it here because that would force, overlap with the forest choice here. Just kind of lowers my expected value for the mountain being there. I could put it here, which would, serve for an island up here, but then I'm kind of, again, kind of top left, top right. That might not be too bad. Though if I put it here, I do have the beach here as kind of a natural extension. So this really is kind of the most obvious spot for it. Any of the three corners could work, but I do like to kind of co-locate my initial placements here. So I'm going to put the mountain here. And I want it here versus the more middle ones in this case because this will give me the most placement options for things adjacent to the mountain, which is, kind of what I'm looking for. All right, and then we get a house here. I'm going to put the house, adjacent again, trying to build up adjacencies. I think in this case, there could be an argument made for here. If I put it up here, I could potentially put a beach or something here would be nice. Whereas if I put the house here, it's not adjacent to the beach, but I don't really want to put, I wouldn't put another beach here. Maybe a forest would go here, but I'd much prefer forest to be over to the right more. And these two tiles. So what I think is probably best in this case, I'm going to put the house here. Um, and now we have a church and a house. I've kind of already set my orientation, so it seems like there'll be an island here, and probably the next island's going to be up here. I'm going to put the church a little more on the outside in this case. Um, yeah, and just kind of, I only want to go for the house right now. There's nothing adjacent to it. And I'm going to stick my church set up here. And there's a, pretty reasonable spot for a church. Again, it's on the border of these two 3x3 blocks. Um, and so I can put it there. All right, and then it's pretty easy. Forest adjacent to a mountain. All right, and we get another one. And then we get down to this church spot. So now it's a little unfortunate to put the house here. It would have made for a nice church here. What I might do in this case, so this would be the second of 5 churches. So, I'm going to have some pretty good other opportunities. I only have one house so far on this island. So I'm going to put my house here, get the beach adjacency. Potentially could put something else, like a mountain here or here. It's a likely, extension. So we kind of expect to get some more points out of that later. So it's not, this one's not a great choice for us. We have the forest here. Um, Even though ideally, I wouldn't put it next adjacent to the church because it doesn't really help. It will be okay because I'll expect to maybe put some houses in some of the adjacencies as well. And then I can build off of that. And this puts it again on the intersection of the 3x3s. So it's pretty decent. I'm going to check both of these. So I can go either one here, but this one's going to be a little bit better. It gets the house adjacency and it's not blocked by the beach that we already have. All right, and then it's our first island. This island will kind of draw itself a fair bit. We already have the beach here. It's definitely the island I want to start with because it has much more intact. I'll make a notch here so I can get a wave or another beach adjacency for this house later potentially. And then I'm going to have the spare tiles, so I will put another notch in here. I'm going to put it here. It's a little Actually, I won't put it there. What I will do is come and put it here. If I put it, if I draw the island like this, I know I've already filled this row with this initial beach. So that's going to kind of be less likely to get filled based on the placements I've seen. So I can put it on this orientation and potentially get a beach or a wave in there later, um, and just kind of complete the island. I'll have a pretty decent chance of filling most of the things that I might see later. All right, so that takes the first island. We can go in from here. Neither of these are particularly great. The sand here, or the beach here, is probably the best. I can expect to draw at least one tile here later, um, as long as I don't, get a good boat placement I want to preserve. So it seems pretty safe, and then I'll get the extra point for the house adjacency. And that forest was up against the edge. If it was early and I didn't have, the mountain and some forests already established, you could put a forest here, and then maybe you get a mountain that'd be adjacent to both. But at this point, that's not as attractive of a draw. Um, and I don't want to play kind of like greedy style. I'd rather take the extra points from the house. All right, so now we have another beach. At this point, we are maybe regretting a little bit. I'm sorry, waves. Regretting maybe having the house here. It'd be nice to have the house and the waves next to each other, but it's not fine. You're always playing to the odds when you do this, and this is still a pretty good house so far. Now I could put a wave here. Um, and that'd be pretty decent. Has two chances for a house to get adjacent. With the waves, you really want to make sure, ideally that they're always adjacent to a house. Otherwise, it's just not really worth that many points. And ideally, you play something else. Obviously, here we can only play a wave. Um, so that's what we're going to do. I could put a wave here that's a little inland. That could pay off later and be nice. Um, Otherwise, I can go here would be the other good spot. If I put it here, the problem is that if I get another wave, I wouldn't be able to put it in this notch. So, I'm potentially denying an adjacent one. Whereas if I put it here, it's pretty open and I can, get a house adjacency here, a house adjacency here, which would be both nice houses because they would give me points here. Similarly, if I put it here, I could have a house here, here, here. So it's actually one extra draw on the house, which is a good call. It does reduce the chance of a house here, but since this is already in this row, it's like unlikely that I'll be forced to kind of place a house here specifically. So I think I'm going to go for the top here in the wave. All right, another mountain. In this case, I'm going to put it on the outside, so it's away from the church. I don't want to ruin the chance for houses to go next to this church. And this boat's, not really playable. I could get 2 points from it putting it here potentially, but I think the 2 points for the mountain, especially this early, is better. I might get another forest, and we'll build off of that. All right, I don't really want to place a wave. It's only 2 points. I could place, certainly still have plenty of island tiles left for a three mountain, sorry, 3 point beach. So I'm going to put that. Um, Both of these spots are pretty equal at this point. I might put it here, just in case I get a beach to go here, which would be nice for the house. This kind of gives me one extra tile of coverage on, a future house. So if I need to place a house here, for example, I'm covered. Even if I get a beach here, it kind of covers, all these spots, rather than if I put it here, a house down in this diagonal from the mountain, right over here, won't be covered. So I will put it, yeah, go right here. All right, so this is a case where, you know, the kind of natural instincts to play a mountain. The mountains are pretty powerful. I get two right now from the forest. But the diagonal mountains aren't the best. I can't really build this forest off to anywhere else. And there's only, if I fill the one other double adjacency, like the one other place where there'd be two forests touching the mountain, uh, I have diagonal forests, and the forests themselves aren't going to score any points. In this case, what I can do instead is I can put a house here for 3 plus the one on the church, so 4. So it's a pretty good, pretty good attractive play for now. And I think it's kind of better for this point in the game. All right, now we're kind of forcing the wave. So here's, another case too. If I had placed the wave here, when you talked about it earlier, kind of adjacent to this bottom island, um, well, I guess either way I place it, it kind of blocks uh, the vertical here, which is a little unfortunate. So I can just kind of push this out. This is probably the safest, yeah. But still, now I don't have to push it in here where potentially I might put an island for sands or like a boat, um, or something. So I think right here is fine. It's just going to be kind of a dud wave, just going to score two, we expect, but that does happen. Right, another forest. Again, pretty simple. Next to the mountain, next to the existing forest. It seems like unfortunately all our churches are going to spawn on the top left here, but we do get a nice house here that's going to be adjacent to the church. So we'll take that. Um, this wave's not really playable. We could play it for two, but I can also just play this boat for two, and that'll be pretty good. Unfortunately, I can't really. Oh no, I can. Yeah, so I can get three for the boat here if I put it here and draw the island accordingly. But then I'm taking away a point that I would get for the sand, so there's not really much value for that. I can't play it here, or I would block the three on the sands. I can put it here and get two, um, or I can put it here and get two. Let's see, this one would offer two house adjacency options because I can get a house adjacent here maybe. If I put it here, but I'd only get one for the actual land, being the size of the water for a boat here. So, it'd be two total with an upside of three. If I put it here, I can also get two total with an upside of three if there's a house here. Um, so let's see, if I draw the ink here, I think I would rather, because I can potentially bring the island out all the way down here, but then the island on this side would be more constricted. I think here is going to be slightly better. It's a really close call between putting it here and putting it here. Those are really the only two options for it. You could just play the wave for two, but again, the risk in that, right, is I'd have to put the wave here in the corner. Um, it's not going to score more than two, and potentially, I could end up with a wave conflict because I'd start be filling in additional waves. Whereas the boat, it's a little more restrictive in how I draw this island here, but it will not run into the risk of losing points later on. So I think I'm going to put it here, and then when it's time to draw this island, I can make the notch for a beach there. Come out here, make them kind of diagonal so that I get two for the boat, and then we'll come down and give as much room as we can around the church, and that's a pretty good island. Comes to the midline in both directions, so if we get mid draws, we can play them. All right, so ignore the wave. Again, we don't same reason we don't want to play the wave, and we do have a 2-point house placement here, which will be totally fine. All right, again, we could play the diagonal mountain, not the best. I think we'll opt for the forest here, which will be four. All right, and then we get kind of a pair of mountain here, right? So we'll get four for the forest, pretty good play. Obviously, the beaches here is only going to get us one, really. Um, so, not nearly as attractive. And then this is even better. We'll get five from here, right? Two for the mountain, two for the forest, and one for the house. These, let's see, we've seen one, two, three, four, five. We've seen all the mountains. So I could put a forest. I could put a forest here, but it has no growth opportunity, right? It's going to be worth just two no matter what I do. Whereas if I put the house here, we'll get two right away, but there is a potential upside. We get a church, we could get a wave, or even a mountain or forest in the spot below. So I think that's going to play a lot better. And then we can choose here. We can take two in the forest with an upside. We could take a two beach here, but so this is the type of situation, it's very marginal. You're probably looking at like a value of like, 2.1 versus maybe 2.2 or something between these two choices. So I could put a beach here, guarantee two. with an upside of some, house adjacency potentially with the last two draws, or I can put a forest here, potentially get an upside of another forest to kind of connect these, but that's probably a little less likely in terms of draw. I think I'm going to go with the beach here and kind of, we'll see, but I think it's going to have slightly expected affected. Really expect both of them just score two at this point. It's so late in the game that there's not many tiles left. But we might get a slight edge with the sand. Yeah, it looks like it ends up being, at least for this pick, it wouldn't matter. This one's pretty easy, right? You got to go for the church adjacency. We'll get some extra with the mountain and the forest. It's a pretty nice house. And then this one's easy. You just calculate which is ever going to give you the highest points, and that's going to be the beach here. I get 3, whereas the house here would only be 1. So, got to take the beach. And then draw our last island. It'll have a nice little score here. It's probably 69, 70, maybe not 70, maybe 68. We'll see. I'll speed through in the interest of time. Yep, 71. So a little better than expected. All right, so it's a pretty good one. And we'll go again. We'll do a second shuffle here. I think that's what I have time for today. And oof. This is not what you want to see in your first pick, right? Wave in general is a bad first pick. A mountain against the edge is also a bad first placement. And this is doubly bad because this mountain is up against the top here, and the wave is in the second row, which means we lose one of the adjacency picks that we do have for this mountain. Uh, so we aren't really expecting a lot. And then on top of that, we don't have a reason to pick one side or the other, but we also don't want to put a mountain dead center because we really need those 3x3 adjacencies to give a best chance for filling out the forest. So we're really kind of flying into this one at a disadvantage in blind. So there's basically 2 spots, right, or 4 spots. I can go on the inside of, um, again, kind of talking about the theory here, maybe slowing down a second. In terms of the placement, right, we know that each row has 2 placements, each column has 2 placements, and then each 3x3 block that you can divide this board into has 2 placements, right? And we see almost all of those except for 2 every game. Um, so when I talk about, the placement here, what I'm looking for is maximizing the number of adjacency of certain elements and then putting other elements kind of on the edges where they don't need as much. Mountains want a lot of things adjacent. You want other mountains adjacent to mountains, or at least kind of nearby. You want forests as much as possible adjacent to the mountains to score higher. And then you obviously want houses and stuff are also really good adjacent to mountains because they'll score for both the mountain and the forest that it's adjacent to. So, it's kind of a lot going on with mountains. So you really want your mountains kind of on the edge of the 3x3 divides. Ideally, the ones where it touches, 4 3x3 blocks. But if not that, then at least one where it touches 2. So, these 2 spots here kind of span the first 2 3x3 blocks on the left, and then the 2 spots span along the right. So I have, all those options available for spots, any of these 4. Again, the side that I pick is really irrelevant at this point. So, I have either the outer 3x3 or the inner 3x3, um, and it's mirrored on the other side. So it's really only 2 choices, and then just if you have a right-left preference, which technically the game does have a right-left preference. If you really study the deck, we might be able to kind of theory craft out which orientation is slightly better odds, because again, if you don't know, the way this works is that this mimics cards. So this mountain card has a back with a certain position on it that is now eliminated from being offered. And then this top row has a particular card in the back that we're actually going to see next turn. So like you can imagine if this is a deck of cards, the placement card is going to flip over on top of the mountain here, and then that's going to be our next choice. So we can kind of predict also a bit on what this might be. One example is this could be a boat. I think one of the boats is the top row. So if you really understood the deck, you can kind of get some edges like that, which is part of how the AI is so effective. But for our cases, we don't really know the deck all that well. We know just kind of what's in it and some slight of placements. So, in terms of the orientation, it's kind of a crapshoot for us, and we could pick either one. I'm going to go top left in this case, and I do favor the inside quadrant here. This gives me a little more flexibility. For example, if I got a forest here in the dead center, I could potentially make this a top right island, um, more aligned to the top right side, or something kind of a little more out there. Whereas if I put a mountain here on the outer edge, it's dedicated and kind of guaranteed to need to be an island that's very centered on the top left here. So I take the little bit of flexibility I can get. All right, and then we're moving on. We have a forest or sand, beach. I don't necessarily want to put the beach here. This is again actually really disappointing. So this is a case where I would have had a slight edge if I put the mountain on the right, on the right alignment. But obviously we don't know that this particular car is, placement is going to come up next. Um, so I could put the beach here and then start building for house adjacency, or I can go more kind of aggressive with a forest here and look to maybe get a mountain and some placement here. It's a close call, and a lot of this is close calls, and that's a lot of what Tiny Islands is. But I think I'm going to opt for the forest, and again, I'm going to put it kind of more on the inner edge. We'll see how that plays out. So not the best. We have the mountain again on the edge. We don't want to play that, especially with the forest here and the mountain already up there. So we'll go for the house, and we'll give the house on the outer edge, just to kind of maximize the chance that we might actually see a mountain come into play here. This is really not shaping up well for us in this one. We've knocked out a potential mountain in this row, or forest for that matter. So we're kind of getting hit with, eliminating adjacencies to the thing we just placed, which is not the best. All right, here we can take the house. We'll take the house adjacency, and we'll have to take kind of another speculative house here. In this case, I think I will go for the inner here. If we put anything here, actually, I think maybe the outer here. So putting the house here, it'll make it adjacent to 2 3x3, so you might see some stuff come in that can be adjacent to it. But we can also put sands along the left edge, or sorry, beaches or waves along the left edge, and they'll work well. Whereas we don't necessarily want to put a beach adjacent to this mountain right away, just in case we get a forest that needs to go there. So we'll go about here. And no matter what I could do, I couldn't get this house, these two houses kind of close to each other. So that wasn't really an option. All right, now we have a church. The church up here would kind of stretch this island awkwardly. This would be a large island, maybe just with one beach option. Not the best. I can put a church here. We can develop this house, or you can put a forest here. I think in this case, we need to play more towards the church. We've already seen 3 mountains, I think. Um, is that right? 2 or 3. It's a little hard to keep track, especially when I'm talking. But we're really not in good shape for a lot of mountain points here. So going with the forest here, just doesn't pay off as much right now, and it's not that likely to pay off later. Um, so we'll go with the church, and now we do get something kind of nice. We get a forest, so at least we have a little bit building into this mountain. And we'll put it here again to kind of maximize the chance that we can place another adjacent forest. Ideally one maybe directly south of the mountain, so that it can give a point to the house as well. All right, and we get that right next turn, so that's great. We can check the house. It's always, even when you have easy kind of plays like this, it's definitely worth taking a moment to check the other option. But we definitely want the forest here is going to score 5 for us right away. It has still, good growth opportunities if we do get another favorable mountain. All right, and this is nice too. We kind of get this um, forest that we were debating earlier. I can go right here. Again, the wave, you don't really want to play a wave this early when it's only going to score 2. This is not really adjacent to any houses or likely to be. So forest is a pretty strong play here. Now, in terms of drawing this island, this is one of the cases we don't have a clear favorite in the islands quite as strongly. This island, we know it has to come out pretty far because of where the church is from the corner. Um, but we don't know the shape of where you might want beaches, where you might want water. So it's not, the best first island to draw. This one, we, can be a little more open to the shape, but we we have a little more stuff here and we have maybe a little bit more idea of how we want to draw it. So I think we'll start with this one. And I'm probably going to adjust this, but I kind of want to fill it out. So the tricky thing about this one is, we're going to end up blocking off a lot of the church adjacency. So, if we draw, say, this, we only have one potential house that we could draw, um, which is not great. Ideally, we leave ourselves open for a couple of houses to go next to that church. So we can kind of reimagine this island a bit. So we can do this. No, we're not going to have enough ink for that. That's right. Uh, we can draw this. This gives us two beach options. Um, and, an extra house option. A house could go kind of to the left of the church here. We can still get a mountain, still get pretty favorable mountains. The one downside to this is that our house on the right here doesn't have a lot of additional growth options. There's no notch or anything here to put a beach in the kind of the top left corner. But I think we can go with this, um, and that'll be pretty decent. All right. So now we have a choice between the beach and the forest. Both of them. So forest here is only going to score 2. That's not that useful. You don't have any growth opportunity for it really. Whereas we can put a forest here, we block a church house adjacency, but we'll score 2 instead of set for maybe a mountain. Alternatively, we can put a wave in kind of the notch here, and it might get a house adjacency, but that's kind of left to be seen. I think I'll go for the forest. It's kind of the standard maybe response to this. All right, and then we will fill this notch in. So it's good that we made this extra notch in space for the house. And we will get to fill that in. The other option is we could go 3 for the beach by putting it here, and then a 4 for the house. Whereas this is going to score 2, 3, 4. So they both score 4. This I think is probably the better play at this point because maybe you get a beach here if we get forced into it, or uh, we haven't seen too many beaches yet. Yeah, we'll put the house there. Right. Again, we have the option of that corner forest for 2, but I think in this way we'll go with the house instead. I'm going to put this over here. I'll leave a little more room for a mountain in this kind of column or row in the future. It's not going to matter too much. This has 1, 2, 3, 4 potential house adjacencies. This has 1, 2, 3, 4 as well. The house adjacency options are a little better here, but I think this gives us more outs for points. All right. This is one of the rare cases where I think I will take a wave over the beach. There's going to be a 4-point wave. It's a pretty good fill in for this row, and there's really nothing else we want to do. We can do a 3-point beach, but then we don't really have any houses over there. We don't have too much else for adjacency, so we'll go for the 4-point wave first. All right, and we can even fill this in 1 extra. So there's kind of a nice thing about going for that wave is we can take a more out there approach. We'll get 1 for the wave adjacency, 2 for the church, sorry, it's 3 for the church adjacency with all our bonuses. So, there's a 4-point house. It's pretty good. All right, and then corner boat. Basically, always take corner boats when you can. So that happens. Oh, we got offered 2. So it's unfortunate there's going to be a dead church. There's not much to do about it. I believe the church was on the last option too, or something at least not that useful. There's really no other way that we could have gotten out of this. We can put the church here just in case we need a top right house. Leave ourselves a little more open. All right, and then we get to fill in. A wave here is not useful, really. Everything in this row is already kind of adjacent to the wave that we placed earlier. And this is a good beach. This is a 3-point beach that we were looking for. And so we can fill that in. All right, and then we get a mountain. Not the best mountain, but it will score 4 because of the house adjacency. So, it's actually not that bad given kind of our mountain situation that we got going on in this game. Now I want to make sure that we score the maximum for the boat we can, which is going to be like that. Um, and then we'll make a corner notch just in case we need to place a wave or something. And I'll take a beach notch here in case you see that. I'm doing it on the right side instead of the bottom side because it puts it a little closer to the mountain and the forest, which makes for a better house adjacency. So if we get a beach in here and then a house kind of touching the mountain, that's pretty good. We're getting kind of a lot of churches at bad times here, but this wave's actually pretty decent. 3-point wave. That's why it's nice to have that notch there. And then we can fill in. So this is kind of just in case, I guess this church will pay off. We'll take 3 from the house by being next to this church, or we can take 2 by putting it here with a little bit better growth opportunities, but we're on the third set, so we're not placing that many more tiles. So I think we're much better off just getting the immediate 3 now with the thing there. All right, and then this wave is useless, more or less. We can put it here for the slight chance we put a house right below, diagonal, down to the left of it, right of it. So let's place that there. And then at this point, we'll just kind of maximize for points. Take the 3 on the sands. Ooh, we get a nice forest. Ooh, a very nice mountain. Check the house. This mountain's going to be 4. This house would be 3, so we'll take the mountain. We can either get 1 or 2. We'll take the 2. And then we'll get a nice 4 for this mountain. Yeah, the option's 4 for the mountain or 2, 3 for the sands. We'll take the 4 because it's the very last tile anyways. Draw our last island, and that's what we got. So I hope to do, maybe I'll do one of these later where I do a slower playthrough with step-by-step decisions. But I want to just kind of do one of a couple random seeds to just kind of show at a quick level, for somebody who's familiar with the game, the decision making that I put into this, and how I kind of maximize my points and thinks about things. So thanks for watching.